Hello, friends. It's the devil that sits on your shoulder and tells you to chew on that plant, Gray. And today I'm feeling very hype because I'm a little bit sleep deprived, and when I'm sleep deprived, I have two modes. I'm either easily agitated and irritated by everything, or I am insane and unhinged and laughing uncontrollably at everything. And we're definitely the latter today. So we'll see how coherent this podcast ends up being. I know that's very comforting for those of you just dropping in, but welcome to the insanity. So lately I have been thinking a lot about developing a consistent creative practice and what that means to me, because I've had a lot of different versions of a consistent creative practice, and this iteration is in many ways similar to past ones and also quite different, and also the one that I have been most consistent in maintaining thus far. And I've talked a little bit about this here and there, but I really had this breaking point around the Pisces lunar eclipse where I really was reaching the end of a lot of my old coping mechanisms, a lot of my old distractions and dissociation mechanisms. I've been sort of in this process hardcore over the last 2 years of outgrowing these coping habits and coping patterns. And I sort of will have periods where I'm very consistent in my creative practice and in living life the way I know I want to live, and moving through my day the way I know is the most healthy and fulfilling for me. And then I basically hit this cap where I cannot tolerate the level of goodness that I feel anymore. And I gotta run back to safety for a little bit and run back to my old coping mechanisms. And the way I used to talk about this with my friends and with some of my clients who I have gathered from their responses experience similar is that from years of moving through burnout, of processing my complex PTSD and beginning the process of sort of stabilizing that, I have developed a legitimate fear of my own energy, of my life force. And I really became aware of this when I started getting into human design and finding out that I am a manifesting generator and that I am supposed to have this explosive energy and this like constant generator, it's in the name, of energy to keep me going and keep me pursuing the things that excite me, that light me up. And I would be like, then why is it so hard for me to do that consistently? And I find that a lot of the people that I talk to who also experience this, a lot of them are, like me, autistic or neurodivergent in some way. And a lot of them are generator types. They do have like that strong sacral energy, that consistent sacral energy. And it is overwhelming to them. They have learned to fear it, to be overwhelmed by it, and to see it as a sign that they're going to overdo it and exhaust themselves and zap their nervous system. But over the last 2 years, I have been slowly building my capacity to be present with my own energy and to just allow myself to feel it, to receive it, and normalize to my system that it's not scary. It's not going to carry me away. I can have proper boundaries with it. I can create some containment to protect this energy and to keep it from leaking all over my life, and that it is safe to feel and move this energy, and it's safe to follow it. And one of the main things that has really helped me in this regard is meditation. First of all, intuitive movement meditation. That has been extremely helpful for me because that creates enough stimulation that I'm not just sort of like completely immersed in the stillness with that gigantic energy in my body such that it becomes overwhelming. I have a little bit of like a form of stimulation that my system sees as safe to kind of help balance out that like novel intensity that I'm not used to feeling when I just sit in my own energy. But moving from that to what I call energy body meditations has really been the next step in learning how to get really comfortable just immersing in my own energy and just being present with it. Because in these meditations, I do a lot of different things in these meditations. I usually use breath work and somatic awareness to notice the sensations that are present and sort of move them around in my body, and to just get to know the operations of my energy field, like feeling my own aura, both inside my body and just outside of it, and expanding that aura as well. A lot of times, I will just lay down and start with a body scan and start by really trying to drop deeper and deeper into my body, to relax deeper into my body. I think this is one of the most useful ways also to start astral practices, is by starting by going deeper into the body instead of trying to like yeet yourself out of it. But I will start by doing my body scan, dropping deeper into my body, noticing the sensations that are present there. And then usually I will start focusing on breathing energy from my root chakra, from the very base of my spine, up through each of my individual energy centers, up into my head, and then breathing it all the way back down to the root. And then sometimes I will also practice breathing into that channel and expanding it outside my body. There are various things that I do from there to play with how I move energy and acclimating to the sensation of moving energy in my body. But that has been so incredibly useful in me helping myself to learn, helping my body and mind to update on the fact that just because there is a very big explosive energy in my body does not mean that that energy is dangerous. What has made that energy dangerous in the past is trying to harness it for things that were not actually aligned with my creative channel. You know, you hear this a lot in human design. They will talk about, if you are a generator type, focusing on what lights you up, focusing on what actually increases the flow of energy in your body versus what is draining to you, which versus what is a turnoff, versus what gives you that gut feeling of, no, I don't like that. Because that is usually how it shows up, either as a, like, yeah, that sounds nice, or no, that does not sound nice. Like, these are not, the body does not communicate in words. The body communicates in vague sensations and emotional impressions. So you have to, like, get used to tuning into the subtleties of how this energy feels for you. But certainly, what creates burnout for generator types, what creates burnout for everybody, is doing things that are not within our embodied boundaries, that are not an embodied yes. And, you know, maybe some human design readers will check me on this. I'm not a human design reader, but from working with various human design types and just hearing about people's experiences, I believe that everybody has a sense of what lights them up and what energizes them in a sacral way, whether your sacral is defined or not. It just means that if your sacral is undefined, you may need to get some space from other people's energies, or wait until you sort of reach like a base point in all of the fluctuations of your energy and the way the different like astrological transits and such impact you, in order to figure out what is consistently energizing for you and how to come back to that. But especially for generator types, it is really critical to get in contact with what is aligned with your channel, with what does energize you and give you that sense of like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go after that. And what just feels draining and boring and not good. And I have really struggled with this over the years because I still find myself at times wanting to ignore what feels right to my channel and just push through it in order to do what my mind says is right for me. And this never works out in my favor. And like recently, I have a general sort of routine that I've set up now where like there are certain days of the week where I like to write articles and plan ahead in that regard. There are certain days of the week that I like to record podcasts. These different tasks I have assigned to different days of the week when it usually feels good to me with my schedule to do something. But I noticed one morning, it was supposed to be a day when I was writing like my next main article for the week. They've been coming out on Mondays. And that's when I usually release my like creativity focused stuff, my like sort of informative teaching type things. Sometimes they'll have like a little meditation or ritual or practice at the end of it for the paid subscribers. But that day, I had a general idea of what I wanted to work on. I was all geared up to go ahead and make that thing. And yet there was something else that was really lighting me up. I really wanted to just write like a personal essay. I had this like vague vision in mind, not a fully formed idea yet, but I could feel it in me, the sense of what I wanted to do with it. I even had like a title. There was a whole general vibe there, and I could feel how energizing it was in my body. And I finally was like, okay, I can't ignore this. I can't just do the thing that makes sense because it makes sense, because that drains my energy. That means I'm going to have less energy overall to get all of these things done that I know I want to get done. Whereas if I go for the thing that is most exciting to me in this moment, that feels most alive to me in this moment, that desire is a renewable energy source. When we begin moving towards the object of our desire, that thing that lights us up, when we engage with that object, more desire is created in the form of deep appreciation and satisfaction. And that is more available energy, more free-flowing and accessible energy to put towards the things that we want to get done, to do more, to act on more of our desires. And one of the things that I think is often confusing to people, that was certainly confusing to me in the first couple years of getting to know how desire operates in my body, how to tap into it, how to mobilize it, is that sometimes there is something that we desire so much that it's a little bit scary to us, that it is very sensational to our nervous system. It exceeds our nervous system capacity to be with and expand into that desire. And so there can be this sense that like, oh, I must not really want that thing because sometimes it sounds exciting to me. And other times, like, I feel this resistance to it. I feel this resistance to showing up and doing it. And I think another thing that can be at play here is that sometimes there is a certain desire that resonates with certain parts of ourselves, but other parts of ourselves have constructed an identity that is at odds with this desire. And they know that if this desire is allowed to transform us, to terraform us, it is going to mean that those parts of self have to die. They have to return to the aggregate of self and be reformed as something new. They will lose their current existence and how they currently identify themselves. They will experience a death. And now I don't believe that parts of self ever like just completely go away. You know, energy doesn't just go poof. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. We know this. This is a law of physics. But I do believe that that energy gets composted, gets repurposed, and that those parts of self experience that as a death. And these parts of self, the number one reason why they don't want to die, they don't want to return to the big ball of self, the big sun inside us that produces all of our various little parts, is because they exist for a reason. These parts were created for a reason. They were created out of various experiences, various emotions, and they have a goal and a mission within the family, the internal family system of self, to protect us and to keep us safe. So there are some desires that it is as simple as like, when I feel into this thing, it's exciting, the energy's there, and I just go. I go for it. And there are other desires that we have to meet with a little bit of resistance, and we have to use a bit of aligned discipline to support ourselves in showing up in alignment with that desire and in being devoted to that desire. And this is why you will never catch me saying that we should ditch discipline. Been talking about it a lot lately because it's such a big part of my life, is learning how to actually use discipline in a healthy way, and what discipline is as a pure frequency when we divorce it from capitalist paradigms and manipulative paradigms that were created to use our energy, to weaponize our energy for someone else's ends. The only use that discipline serves in your life is helping you to align with what is in your highest good and what you know you crave in the deeper parts of yourself. The only use that discipline has in your life is supporting you in necessary transformations of self, expansions of the nervous system, major death and rebirth cycles. This is the role of Saturn. I write about this in my Birthing the God Self series, whenever we talk about Saturn and his or her role in your creative practice. Saturn is there to create the scaffolding that helps you to materialize your creative vision, that helps you to materialize your desires and actually create the life you want to create. Saturn is there to help shepherd you through all of those difficult, slow, friction-based parts of the creative process, because friction is not bad. Resistance and friction does not mean that you are doing something wrong. Friction is just a necessary aspect of bringing things into form. It is a necessary aspect of reality and of creation. And if you're experiencing friction and resistance in your practice, then you are probably right on target for following your desire. You are probably going in exactly the direction you need to go, fearlessly headed towards what is meant to transform you as a person. It's actually a very good sign if you're experiencing resistance and friction in your life and in your creative practice, because it means that you're not just fucking around. You're not just staying in your comfort zone doing what is easy for you, but what is keeping you feeling dead and dull and bored with life. You are actively engaged with your creative channel and following your desires, and you are experiencing that inherent friction that comes with the way those desires terraform you. But because desire's job is to transform you, because desire is here to terraform you and to create this engine of death and rebirth within the self, it's also important to be very gentle with yourself and allow yourself to have your own process, and to recognize that it is going to be a process. That you're not just going to show up and be talking to your genius every day and channeling the ideas from the spirit realm every single day and doing things to the standard that maybe you envision would be best for yourself immediately. That is not going to happen. You're going to have to show up in tiny spurts. You're going to have to take half steps. You're going to have to sacrifice your ideal vision for your creative practice just a little bit in order to acclimate to the change. And I was thinking about this yesterday when I was writing an article and talking a little bit about this transition that I'm in, and how I've spent these last couple years sort of in and out of my ideal creative practice, and only really now, in the last couple months, have I actually had the nervous system capacity and the ability to show up to the level that I'd always envisioned, and to be doing the amount of work that I'd always envisioned doing. And it has felt easy. This is the longest that I have gone without feeling even the tiniest tickles of burnout creeping up, without feeling any hints of nervous system immobilization. And recently, I still find myself like feeling a little bit of concern that I might be pushing too hard, that like, oh no, I don't want to overwork myself and end up back in burnout. So I've had a couple days that I will like take off and try to take a break and take it easy. And I find that those days are not replenishing to me. They are draining. I've had like maybe like 3 of these days within the last month where I've tried to do this, and I've tried to go back to my old like rest habits, usually where I watch TV all day, and sometimes I draw, or sometimes I just lay there and watch TV and like scroll threads in Instagram. And I used to find this to be restorative. I used to find this to be a replenishing, like weekend activity at the very least. And sometimes I'd have to do it for like a whole week or something in order to get back on my grind, so to speak, because we don't believe in grinding here. But and now I'm noticing that I am totally drained by that it is not restorative to me. It is not relaxing. Rotting does not feel good anymore. And when I finally like really came to terms with this recently, I had a whole like emotional breakdown about it. I felt like this shock of like, it really felt like an ego death, like this shock of like, who am I becoming? I don't like the things I used to like. It sounds dramatic, but like I really was having like a grief process about this revelation that the things I used to like doing, I no longer like doing. And the things that used to be very hard for me, like showing up regularly to work on my art, the things that I used to have very limited energy for, are now what I actually find energizing and restorative. And I've had to like sort of adapt so that like now on the weekends, instead of just totally collapsing, like me and my partner go out and do things, I try to like keep my creative practice going a little bit and keep on my routine where I'm doing a little bit more writing and like immersing myself a little more in the drawing and channeling practice than just like sort of kind of distractedly doing it while I watch TV. I've been having to adapt to what is actually restorative to me now. And what I've come to realize is honestly exactly what they say about generator types in human design, which is that we have to exhaust ourselves by the end of the day, or that it's like we start to rot. It's like, I like to say that like my creative channel starts cannibalizing itself. And that's really what it feels like, is the energy gets trapped and it starts to degrade. It starts to go bad and fill up my entire body with noxious fumes. And like, I'm realizing that what is actually restorative to me, what is actually good rest, is when I focus on ways to expend my energy that also feel replenishing. Like, I mean, this can even be as simple as just like going for a walk. Although that I have found is no longer enough for me. I can't just like keep up with like a walking practice on the weekends. I still need to be doing like some meditation. I still need to be doing like some of my practices and like actually being immersed in my own energy, staying connected to myself, and also moving that energy, moving it in the body and moving it out of the body. And updating on this has been like kind of overwhelming. It's like I feel the parts of me that are scared about what's happening to us, and like my mind is like, guys, that's so silly. Like, our life is getting better. This is good, right? We want to be working more often and getting more things done, and we're finally realizing all of these creative visions that we have been unable to manifest for years. That is a good thing. Why are you upset about it, you big babies? But then I try to be nicer and I try to hear them out, because you know what? This is a big change for them. All of my little inner children and teenagers are like, because also this is a big departure from the way I have seen anybody in my family live. I think my dad is probably the closest to being like this. But like certainly not my other family members. No one I know is like this. All of the people in my family have bad dissociative habits and are constantly avoiding themselves and avoiding being present with themselves. And I absorbed those habits and that way of life and that perspective on reality and what being an adult meant. So it feels like I'm not only losing contact with the person that I was, I'm losing contact with a whole aspect of my life, a whole time in my life, which even though it wasn't particularly great, it wasn't particularly happy, it was comfortable. It was something I understood, and there was a sense of stability in that. That like this part of myself and this way of living, that makes sense to me. That is the oldest downloaded blueprint for life that I have. And now that that security has been ripped away, there are parts of me that are freaking out. So honestly, one of the most critical ways that I have supported myself through this transition is just making space for the grief. And like sometimes the grief hits me before I can hit it. Sometimes it just descends on me and I'm like, okay, this is what we're feeling. And then other days I can just feel that like there's something in me that maybe needs to move. And sometimes like I will begin a bodywork practice feeling totally neutral and think like, I don't really feel like I have any emotions to process today. It's just something feels like it wants my attention a little bit. I can feel like there is a reason for me to have this practice today, so I'm showing up. And by the end of it, I am crying. I am clawing the ground. I am making unhinged, feral faces and noises. I am letting out some kind of like intense grief that I did not expect to find. It's just there and it has no story. I have no awareness of what I'm processing, but something needs processing and I'm showing up to process it however it feels right in my body. Which is why, you know, again, you guys are going to get so tired of me saying this. This is why I'm such a big fan of intuitive movement. I think it is such a great, like, base bodywork practice and, like, foundational somatic practice that you can really slot a lot of different tools into and build out, like, these beautiful, intuitive, emotional, and somatic processing practices. So, yeah, I've really been having to shepherd myself through this process of transformation and try not to judge the emotions that come up just because they don't make sense to me, just because I don't understand why some of my little internal parts are freaking out. It's some things are just not for you to understand. Sometimes it really is just for you to show up and surrender to and trust the process. And if you're looking to get started with intuitive movement, but you find it really intimidating, like what does it mean to move intuitively? Like, what do I do with my hands? That's certainly how I felt when I first got started with this practice. If you head over to my Substack, I have a recent article titled You're Bored with Yourself, Bestie. And at the end of it is a 25-minute guided meditation to help you get started with intuitive movement. I take you through some basic movements and how to feel into your body, what sort of shape a sensation wants to take. And that is for the paid subscribers, or if you subscribe for free, you should be able to unlock it as your first free post. And if you try the meditation, I would love it if you would pop into my brand new subscriber chat and let us know how it went for you. Pretty soon, I'm going to start doing, first of all, we're going to have weekly project and creative practice accountability check-ins for the paid subscribers. And also for the paid subscribers, whenever I post these meditations and rituals and creative challenges and whatnot, I'll try to post a thread for everyone to discuss their experience and sort of like digest it together, because I think that would be really fun to chat about. And then if you are a free subscriber, you will also be able to start threads whenever you want. Anyone can start a new thread. And I'm also going to be doing regular conversation prompts and regular somatic check-ins where I ask you guys what's coming up in your body right now that feels most alive to you, what feels most resonant, what's moving through your creative channel that feels most pulsating and electric to you. I have been running various communities on and off for a couple years now, and this is really the community that I have wanted to build all along. I have really wanted to create community for fellow artists to bounce ideas off of each other, to help each other process our blocks, emotions, emergent epiphanies, and other developments as we move through the work. Because honestly, sometimes we just need accountability and to be electrified by the combined force of a group of people who are constantly moving energy through the creative process. Like just being exposed to other people who are actively engaged in the project of honoring their aliveness is so galvanizing, so inspiring, and so energizing. So I really hope that you will give us a try and come chat with us. And also, don't forget that if you are a paid subscriber on Substack, you will get access to all of these podcast episodes 2 weeks early. And you'll also get access to my entire Birthing the God Self series to help you become the site of inspiration and build the creative practice of your dreams. So that's all I've got for you today, guys. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.